Yes, sir. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy JP, and today I have one of my favorite series of phones here. Man, y'all know I get very enthusiastic when it comes to these RedMagic phones. I really like them. I'm just sorry. I always got to be the first to get them, man. This is the RedMagic 7. This is the Obsidian Black model, and let's see. This thing is just gorgeous, man. I love it. Let's see. Got the super fast in-display fingerprint sensor. It has super fast facial recognition. Let me show you more of the obsidian color here, because you're gonna see videos on the other two more than this one. You're gonna see more of the pulsar model and the transparent model more than the obsidian. So this is, I'm letting those colors hit the light because it is really nice. You notice it has a new air vent there, which I'll get to in a second here as well. Has RGB there, you see that one. It has some more right there in between the RedMagic logo there as well. Once you go into the game space, I'll try to get to showing that as well. But they do have this running Android 12. It has RedMagic's all new interface they call RedMagic OS 5.0. Obviously to go with the new Android OS 12. As I've stated. This phone, man, it's everything you'd expect, man, from a top spec, 2022 gaming phone. They spared nothing besides the camera, as they always do. It has the same 64 megapixel sensor that they've used since the RedMagic 3. Along with the other two sensors that are with it. It has the flash there, and it's kind of unique. I never noticed this on previous RedMagic phones, but you'll notice that the flash is kind of shaped with the outlining of one of the logos for RedMagic, which I never noticed that before. I don't know if the other ones had that. I'm gonna have to look back. I just noticed, I noticed that the first day I had this phone, which was last Sunday, and today is Saturday, so I've had it for 6 days. And yeah, I got it on a Sunday, believe it or not, FedEx. But letting that light hit this color, because this obsidian is probably going to be the most underrated color, but it is beautiful. And you could tell that the center right there, you could tell it's metal right there, right through it. Because if y'all remember the RedMagic 5S back in late 2020, that was one of its upgrades over the RedMagic 5G, was that it had a new, I forget what they called it, but it was some kind of steel thing that they put right there that added to the cooling mechanisms of the phone. They don't advertise it as much anymore, but they've kept it there since. That's one thing I like about RedMagic phones. That's one thing I've noticed about them. When they add something new to their phones, unless it's an upgrade of something that was already previously there, they don't take away from what was previously there. There was only one thing that they have taken away that I noticed in their past couple of generations that they actually brought back in this model, and it has to do with the charging, and I'll get to that as well. But whenever they add stuff to their phones, unless it's an upgrade of something that was already there, they don't take away other previous things that were added as they went along. Even if they don't advertise it anymore, it's just, it's kind of like, if you're wondering what they added on this model on the outside, they added that new exhaust vent right there. Okay, now you'll notice it already had vents on the side. One's for input and one's for output. One sucks air in and the other one sucks it out, or something like that. I could have that wrong. Y'all don't be afraid to be easy on me, but don't be afraid to correct me in the comments. But they have a new exhaust vent right there that wasn't there previously. Okay. And I think it was the RedMagic 6S Pro that introduced some capacitive touch over here, and as well as the shoulder triggers that are here. The capacitive, they're not physical like on the Black Shark 4 Pro or Black Shark 4 for that matter. There's your power key, your volume rockers right there. You got your game space key there still. And also too, speaking about the camera, it's flush. Well, almost. It's almost flush. I always thought that was pretty cool there. But it's a beautiful phone. If I'm not mistaken, it's Gorilla Glass 5 front and back. It might be Gorilla Glass Victus, but I'm pretty sure it's Gorilla Glass 5, possibly 6. The speakers sound great. USB Type-C, of course. And it is the 3.1 standard. It is the 3.1 standard for TV out. For those of you wondering. Sorry for the fingerprints there. Let's see here. The Obsidian model does have 12 gigs of RAM. It is a 165 hertz, 6.8 inch AMOLED screen. Nothing new there. The shoulder triggers, which I just went over, they have been upgraded to a higher touch sampling rate, 500 hertz. Not to be confused with the also upgraded 720 hertz response rate, touch response rate for the screen itself. So don't get those confused. They're both new. They've both been upgraded. The touch sampling rates for both the triggers and the screen. From the triggers at 500 and then 720 for the screen. That's awesome. You do have a new it does have the turbofan. It now runs at 20,000 RPMs, and they made it quieter. And it's noticeably quieter. It's not loud. But personally, I never really thought it was too loud, to be honest with you. I always thought it was kind of subtle, honestly, but it's gotten even better. They've also, and that kind of goes in to the whole the ICE 8.0 multi-dimensional cooling system. And that cooling system, that factors in the fan, that factors in the vent, the exhaust, that factors in that steel plate in the back that I was talking about earlier. That was introduced on the 5S. That kind of includes all of that. Because they don't always, the RedMagic 5S introduced ICE 6.0. The RedMagic 6, this time last year, still had ICE 6.0. The RedMagic 6S Pro introduced ICE 7.0, but ICE 7.0 didn't stay around as long as 6.0 did, because here we have already with the RedMagic 7 and ICE 8.0. So they don't always, they upgrade certain things at different speeds at different times. 8.0 might still be the standard when the RedMagic 7S comes out later on this year. It might get upgraded again to 9.0, but it might stick to 8. The RedMagic 8 next year could stick to 8. It could get upgraded to 9. They could do an 8.5 for all we know. Something minimal. Which they've never done, but it's why not? It's nothing stopping them from that. Because some of these upgrades, besides the processor, a lot of people will consider minimal. But it all adds up into just a sweet package, a badass cooling system, probably the best cooling system in town. There's so many other things that are inside the phone, like the liquid cooling, the vapor chambers. Whatever these other cheaper phones are coming out with, this has that too. And it's crazy to say cheaper, because your RedMagic phones have always paved the way for not only gaming phones in general, but affordable gaming phones. Realize, in order for it to be a gaming phone, it's not only going to have the best processor available, it's going to have tons of other, features there. And they're able to keep this down. I mean, this thing has the screen size and the processor and the RAM of the Galaxy S22 Ultra. The S22 Ultra is like, what, $1,200 to $1,400? Or is it $1,300? Something like that? Somewhere in that ballpark? And this phone is $629. That's right, $629. Now, yes. The S22 Ultra has the stylus, the S Pen, and it also has a camera system that will, make this phone look like a freaking $50 budget phone. Okay, I get that. But I've seen worse, mind you. The camera on this phone is usable. I mean, and I didn't stutter like that on purpose either. That wasn't a hint. I just did that by mistake. The camera on this phone is perfectly usable. The videos are usable. RedMagic phones, I forgot which one it was. It was either the RedMagic 3S or the RedMagic 5G that was the first phone to have 8K video recording. Now, yes, it was in beta. And yes, it was very shaky. But whenever you clicked on it in the camera app, Nubia was smart enough to even have it labeled as beta. Okay, so you knew what you were getting into if what you shot with it came out crappy. I mean, you know what I'm saying? The lens is, the lens that's on this phone was, back in 2017, the most popular flagship 64 megapixel Sony lens, that was being used at the time, that every flagship had. And of course, Nubia used it then on the RedMagic 3 and or 3S, but it's always been their software that has held it back, because a lens can be old and still work great. Your Pixels have proven that. Your iPhone SE has proven that. But it's all about the software. Their software has gotten better. They have added more features. But of course, you can still add G-App, the Gcam, if you want to. It's not an overnight miracle, but it does make it better. There's still other things that play a role there. But as far as your other specs, this is as top spec as you get. As top spec as you get. They have a 16 gig model and an 18 gig model. This one has 128 gigs of internal storage. The other ones have 256, and I think the 18 gig model has 512, but it may be stuck at 256 like the 16 gig model. But it may go up to 512, which is just, that's plenty. But and of course, Nubia does add a RAM boost feature here that gives you 8 more gigs, but it's only available when you're gaming. It's only available in game space. When you exit out, it kind of reverts it back, if that makes sense. It's not permanent like you can make it on other phones, which is odd, but I get it at the same time. I get it. These phones also have Nubia's homemade Red Core 1 chip, which that's actually what is the Red Core 1 processor. It's a separate processor. Because let's face it. I've talked about this many times. There are, you're going to have tons of phones this year with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. Okay, so what's going to make this a better phone for gaming than any other phone with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1? Okay, well, for one, if you before I get there, if you go back to previous models, up until Xiaomi started fitting the top spec Black Shark Pros with solid state drives as their internal storage, up until that point, your RedMagic phones had the highest benchmarks by a huge margin. And even when your Black Sharks, I'm talking about your RedMagics, I hope I didn't get that confused. Your RedMagics had the highest benchmarks by a long shot. And even when your Black Sharks came out with that SSD, again, it was only the top spec model. But even then, it didn't beat the RedMagic phones by the margin that the RedMagic phones were beating everything else behind it. Okay? I mean, it was still number 2, and it wasn't a distant number 2 either. Say what you will about some of the language mishaps that you can find within the settings menus, which I actually haven't seen in this phone yet, but I have seen it on all their phones. Which is odd because I don't see it in your ZTE phones, like your Axon 30. I didn't see it. That's just odd. But anyways, other than the grammar mistakes sometimes found in the settings menus, these phones are super optimized. They really are. And because they have never been found to be cheating in benchmarks either to score those high scores. Okay, but the insane cooling system that this phone has plays a role in that. But that all-new Red Core 1 in-house co-processor from Nubia is game-changing. Game-changing. Because what that does is that's the brains behind the 500 hertz touch sampling rate of the triggers, of the shoulder triggers. The 720 touch sampling rate, the 720 hertz touch sampling rate for the screen itself. And I mean, that's just that's massive. That's massive. And it's the brains behind those things right there. And if y'all want to hear let's see if I can let y'all hear the fan right quick here. But the Red Core 1 coprocessor is game changing. It's what actually will separate this from other Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 smartphones. Okay. Let's see. Because you notice how right now it's just that one right there. But if I go into the settings here for the atmosphere LED, see, I can have it like that. See, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love that extra exhaust vent right there, by the way. That is a nice touch. That was never there before. That's all new again. That's probably the third time I've said that, but it is sweet, man. And let's see. If I go back here. Actually, let me exit out of game space here. Because what I can do... Also, too, check out these new widgets. These weren't on previous models here. See? I can easily change the refresh rate from the widget. And the fan I can turn on. And see, that's on max. This is the lower setting. So you'll hear that there. See, it's not loud at all. Not loud at all. You can tone down the refresh rate. I'll leave it at 90 when I'm not gaming, but when I'm gaming, I'll put it to 165 because when I game, I want to game. And I have no idea why I got this on airplane mode. I didn't mean to do that. But 5G does work, by the way. I've tested it on AT&T and T-Mobile, and VoLTE works. Before anybody asks me, check that out. I got VoLTE working right now. But it's always worked with the RedMagic phones. It's always worked with the RedMagic phones. Their phones also get LTE Plus if you're not in an area with 5G, but you're in an area that has carrier aggregated LTE. You'll see that LTE Plus emblem up there. The RedMagic 5G was one of the first 5G phones that it was actually the 5G phone I was using almost 2 years ago when AT&T put 5G towers in my area in Shreveport, Louisiana. It was in April of 2020. It was, right in the middle of all the COVID stuff. But I was using the RedMagic 5G the day that they launched. It was April 24th, 2020. I remember it. But and they never until recently. It wasn't until the 6S that they even had band N5 listed in the specs for which is AT&T's sub 6 5G frequency. But even though it wasn't until the 6S that they listed it, the 5G worked, the 5S worked, and the 6 worked, and the 6R. Because I had that as well. Speaking about upcoming models, in China they actually introduced this phone with the Pro model, the RedMagic 7 Pro, which did not make the US release. Only the RedMagic 7. You remember last year they had a RedMagic 6 and 6 Pro. Then later on they had the 6R. Then later on they had the 6S Pro, but no 6S. It was a 6S Pro only. What makes the 7 Pro a Pro this time around is quite different actually, because the RedMagic 7 has the features from the RedMagic 6S Pro, which obviously had the features from the 6 Pro. It was just, you just went up the ladder in processors, of course. You went from the Snapdragon 888 to the 888 Plus and then to the 8 Gen 1. Of course, the processor wasn't what made them a Pro, because the standard ones always still had the top spec processor, which is something that Black Shark did not do last year. But this has what made the previous Pros, the previous 2 Pros that they've ever had, Pros. What makes the 7 Pro a Pro this time around is that it has the screen to body ratio on it is smaller than this phone. That one will be a little bit more pocket friendly, but not quite as pocket friendly still as the 6R. But that's because the 7 Pro still has a 6.8 inch screen versus that 6.6 inch of the R. You remember, the R went for a more subtle all-screen design. It didn't have the bezels. They leave the bezels on these phones so you have something to grip on when you're gaming, because you're typically going to hold the phone in landscape mode. The only game that I play that doesn't play in landscape mode is Dragon Ball Legends. Everything else is in landscape. And those bezels are there to grip. They're there for a reason. They've always been. Now, Black Shark has gotten away from that. Their phones are all screen. And the RedMagic 6R was all screen, but it was also a thinner phone, which meant you didn't get that fan either. And it only came in with 8 gigs of RAM instead of 12. But the price was also fitting. It made sense. The 6R was a fantastic phone. It still had a lot of the other cooling features. All of the other, the vapor chambers, the liquid cooling, etc. But the 7 Pro will be a little bit more pocket friendly, not because they're taking any of that stuff away. It's still going to have the vents, the exhaust, the fan, the new vent right there that I keep pointing out. It's still gonna have the 6.8 inch AMOLED screen. That's why I say it's not gonna be as pocket friendly as the R. But what they're doing with the Pro is, it's not just gonna have a punch hole like the R. It's going to have Nubia is taking from their mother brand ZTE, the Axon 30. They're bringing that under display technology to the gaming phone, so you get a real, true, uninterrupted gaming experience and also without the bezels. It's going to be a bezel-less, uninterrupted gaming experience, basically. And it's going to have an under-display camera. I think the selfie camera on this is 16 megapixels, and it's actually pretty good, actually. And it's the same one on the Pro, but it's going to be hidden. And I think the chin also gets thinner. I think it's going to be symmetrical, like the Galaxy S22 is. But again, it's going to have an under display camera, not a punch hole. And it should be symmetrical. All 4 corners, all 4 sides. I mean, and so therefore the screen to body ratio is going to be smaller. But there's going to be some. There's going to be some downgrades, though, to achieve that I don't really have a problem with. I'm still interested in it, honestly. But the touch sampling rate for the touchscreen on that model isn't as high as this one. But it's still higher than the 6S Pro, or it's equal to the 6S Pro, if I'm not mistaken, which was still in the 500s. But it's not going to be in the 700s like this one is. And the other downgrade is going to be the maximum screen's capable refresh rate. This phone, as you know, can go up to 165. The Pro with the under display camera will only have a 120 hertz refresh rate. So those are the downgrades there. Everything else, again, it's going to have a better screen to body ratio, more pocket friendly. I mean, it's overall the same phone. The bezels, there's not going to be any bezels. It's going to be symmetrical. It's already out in China. It came out the same time this phone came out. You can get it on GizTop. Of course, it's hella expensive right now. But Nubia decided for whatever reason to release it later. They're probably going to release it around the time that they released the 6R last year. So I doubt they're going to have a 7R or anything like that. They may, but I haven't seen anything about it. I don't know how successful the 6R was last year. But anyways, other thing to go over right quick is the charger. This is the 65-watt GAN charger. Usually when I get new phones, I leave the chargers in the box. I leave them alone for resale value because I have plenty of other chargers that I use, including fast chargers. But none of my fast chargers would do what this charger is capable of. Because I read about it and I was excited that they brought this feature back because it's been missing. It's that only thing that Nubia's ever taken away from these phones, and I never understood why. And I've never heard anybody even talk about them in videos. I don't know if anybody even liked them. The RedMagic 3, which is my first RedMagic phone, had this. The 3S had it. The 5G had it. But I think beyond that point, I don't think the 5S had it. The 6 didn't have it. Obviously, the 6R didn't have a fan, so that didn't have it. And the 6S Pro that I had didn't have it. And I think the 5S was when I realized they didn't have it anymore, but it might have been the 6. But what your Nubia phone, what these RedMagic phones used to do is, when you used to plug them up to a fast charger, it didn't even have to be the one included. The fan would kick on to keep the phone cool. And it would stop once it got to either 90 or 95%. And I don't know why it stopped there instead of just going, all the way to 100. But I liked that feature because I noticed that phones with the same charging speed, with the same charger, they charged up at their advertised speed. But the RedMagic phones were faster because that fan would kick on. And it was like one of my favorite features that nobody talked about. Now, I'm guessing they possibly got rid of it for a little while because the fan is so loud. A lot of people, complained about it. And that may be why they took that feature away. But they brought that feature back with the RedMagic 7. I know it's not a big deal. And it actually doesn't kick off until it gets to 100. But I have not been able to replicate it with any other charger besides the one that comes with this phone, which is why I got it unwrapped there. I'm using it. But it's just, it when you charge it, they call it nano charger or something like that. I forget. It says it when you plug it in. But it just charges it extremely fast. And it's because realize in China this phone has a I don't know if they changed it in the firmware or not, but see, in China this phone comes with a 120 watt charger, whereas here it comes with a 65 watt charger. I don't know if the phone in the US model is compatible with 120 and that they just include a 65 watt charger in the box, or if by firmware it's been toned down, to 65 watt, meaning that if I were to plug it up to a 120, which I think I did actually, and I didn't realize anything special, and maybe you got to use the 120 that comes with the Chinese model. I don't know if that'll make a difference here, or if, because it might be disabled, via the software, when they, were doing the US firmware and whatnot. But that's just one of my favorite that was just one of my favorite features of the RedMagic phones, and it was the one thing that they did take away, and I never understood why. But Android here, as you can see, it's clean for the most part. They actually did revamp their OS. RedMagic OS 5.0 is I like it a lot. It has all of the features of Android 12, obviously, because it is Android 12. It's lightning fast. You do have Google Now over here, of course. R.I.P. Scott Hall. I know y'all been seeing that. Man, he was one of my favorite. Razor Ramon, R.I.P. the bad guy. But remember what he said too. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do. I wouldn't have put that in there if I wouldn't have scrolled over there and saw that. But there you have that. You have your dynamic wallpapers there, of course, that I keep showing off there. But let's see. Let's get back in here right quick. I'm just gonna kind of give you a quick rundown here. But yeah, you see, it's very fast, very fluid, no hiccups whatsoever. Fastest phone. I've already had a ton of phones that have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, and this is just faster. It's just amazing. I absolutely love these phones. They are a blast to play with. There's no need for an AN Odin Pro. Because you slap a controller on this and you already got the best mobile gaming the best mobile gaming console money can buy. There you have it, y'all. The only complaint is what most people already know. They already expect with the camera. But they're not trash. I've seen worse. So, anyways, y'all hit me up in the comments. Sorry this was so long, but again, for the 4th or 5th time, y'all know I love RedMagic phones. So I will see you on the next one. Next video I have out will probably be the Galaxy A53 5G. With the AMD graphics chip, and which I'm really looking forward to, as well as the iPhone SE 5G, which is what I call the iPhone SE 3rd generation. But yeah, I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.